Okay, now we're going to talk about the wonderful world of sprouting. So why is this so wonderful? Because you get a chance to bring things to life and create living food. And to do this, all you need is a jar. A lid is useful too, because that helps when you're straining it out after rinsing. You can also use a mesh cloth, but this happens to be a sprouting lid. You can get it at any health food store. And it's a stainless steel screen lid, and it just screws onto a regular mason jar. So to show you how simple this is, you literally just put in almonds. These are just regular almonds, raw of course. You always need raw things, otherwise if they're cooked they're dead, they're not going to sprout. So you put your seed or nut inside of the jar, and whatever amount you have in there, you just want to fill it up with about double the amount of water. So that's pretty close for the almonds. And now I'm just going to let it sit on the countertop until morning comes, or if you're starting it in the morning, then just 6 to 8 hours works for pretty much anything. If you're sprouting a harder seed like legume, then you may want to let it go about 12 hours, but 8 hours has always worked pretty well for us for anything we've sprouted. Then in the morning, all I'm going to do is turn it over in the sink and let it drain out. Okay, so after we do the drain, we're going to want to rinse it really well. And that's true with any nut or seed or grain that you're soaking. After it's soaked, you're going to want to rinse, drain several times. What that does is it's going to wash away all the tannins, phytic acids, and enzyme inhibitors that seed or nut or legume naturally has contained within it to prevent it from sprouting. You can imagine if there's a seed that's out there in the world and it gets a little bit of water and then it doesn't have enough water to sprout and go into life, that it would die prematurely once it dries out. So that's why things need to be soaked, and then that releases that enzyme inhibitor preventing it from sprouting. So once that's done, we're just going to set it on the countertop and we're going to let it just do its thing, but basically we're going to keep it moist. So morning and evening is the time to rinse it, again, just to keep it moist. Things like broccoli sprouts, you're going to want to rinse them again in the afternoon, only if it's hot, because they dry out pretty quickly, and when you think about it, broccoli is a cool weather crop anyway. They do like to stay moist and a little cooler. In the hot weather they will warm up. So here we are, since we're talking about broccoli sprouts, this is what the full-sized guys look like. This whole jar gets filled up from just 1/8 cup or 2 tablespoons of seeds, and these are also the broccoli seeds. Again, you can see that these filled in quite a bit, and we've actually been munching on these for a few days, so it'll fill up this whole jar just with like 2 tablespoons of seeds. Some other things that we sprout are these are some sesame seeds, and there's a little pumpkin seeds in there. Those are going to be for some crackers that we're going to make. And this shows you too that you can sprout more than one thing in the jar. If you're going to make one recipe and you need to sprout several things, you can sprout them together in one jar. Here we have some adzuki beans, and which just brings us to the leguminous family. Is that a lot of people will consume sprouted beans after they've sprouted them first and let them go for several days, but it's really not recommended. They have the phytic acids and the enzyme inhibitors, which a lot of them get released from the sprout to make them safer, but really need to cook them in order to make them really safe. So we don't recommend that. So we do use these for when we cook with in our some of our dishes, which you'll see in our book too. Another thing that we sprouted is wheat berries, and these are going to be used to make wheatgrass, which we're going to show you how to actually grow and juice your own wheatgrass using these seeds. So again, I think we covered the basics. Simple and easy. You're just putting seeds in a jar, you're filling it with water, and time does the rest of the work. A little bit of time in the morning and evening to rinse them, and you're bringing food to life. Again, that's the healthiest food that you can consume is food that is living, because when you think about even picking produce off of a tree, yeah, it's starting to die as soon as you pick it off, and you know it's vital at that time. But especially if you're buying things in the store, if you don't have room to grow things in your yard or any other place to plant things, then sprouting is an excellent option because you get that life force where you may not get it as if you're consuming most of your produce from the supermarket. So the only other sprouting method I want to show you is using a terracotta tray. And the terracotta tray we use to sprout flaxseed and chia seed with. And the reason we do that is because if you did try to do it in the jar, it ends up making one big mucilage mess, and you can't, it's really hard to rinse. So it's easy to do it in the tray, and you don't even have to bother with the jar. But what we're going to do is start off with about an 1/8 inch of water in the bottom of the tray. And these trays too, they say the ones from China will contain lead, so you pretty much don't want to use those ones. You want to use ones from Italy or some other source. It should be okay. So now I'm going to take, I use about an 1/8 cup of seeds. Each we're using the flax and chia, but you can use one or the other. So there you go. Right now it's kind of floating around in there, but in short order you'll have something that looks like this. It sticks to the tray, and after we sprouted this for about a day or two, and if you let it go any longer, you would notice that it actually would start to sprout, and it'll grow up and even want to start to green. But anytime you start to see roots get almost any length at all, they turn bitter, and they just don't taste as well that way. But if you try them and you like them, they're and have at it. But we're going to use them at this point, and so this tray we soaked yesterday, that one we'll use tomorrow, and we just keep trading off that way, so we have a good amount of seeds. Now the flax and chia, if you don't know, they have the basically the best source of omega-3 fatty acids that you can get. So it's good to add them to your diet. So we do that by way of usually a smoothie, or some of our our fruit porridge that's in our recipe in our book, or just simply blend it with what we're going to do right now. Blend it with some kefir milk, and then we pour it on top of whatever fruit we have fresh and we harvest that day out of our orchard. So there you have it. Now to wash this, we're just going to put a little hot water in there, rinse it off, and then take a brush. You don't need to use soap to pollute your tray with or anything. Just nice hot water and a rinsing will take care of that. The other thing is that when you get through washing it and letting it dry, you really want to make sure it dries real well before you use it again. So we like to put it in the sun or on our hot stove, our fire stove or wood burning stove in the winter time. Just make sure it gets good and dry, just so things don't have a chance to stay moist and grow mold on it and stuff. So that about covers the sprouting. Again, we're going to show you how to grow wheatgrass, and that's going to involve growing in dirt. And if you want to grow sunflower seeds with the hulls still on and green those, then you'll also grow those in dirt too. We don't do too much of that. Our broccoli, we figure, is getting us our green and our chlorophyll, and we just feel through research and taste too that the broccoli sprouts, which do end up greening. Like again, I guess I didn't mention that, but after a few days, when they start to get long enough and they get their little leaves, you just place this jar in in the window where you get indirect sunlight. Direct sunlight will cause them to dry out too quickly, so just indirect sunlight, and then they'll green. But that gives us gives you the good chlorophyll, and again, these just seem to be the best to use for most of what we with the purpose of what we want to use them for, which is just on salads and on sandwiches and in tacos and stuff like that. So we just try to keep it simple with what we think is the most healthful foods to consume, and use those instead of trying to go with keep up with too much of a variety of different things. So that's all there is to sprouting. So I hope you give it a try and take in all the life force that you can get through the sprouting process, and go on and use it for something good and happy in your life.